So what's going on, guys? CG here today and welcome back to the channel. It's a new week, it's a new upload. I'm going to try doing videos every single day and hopefully that will be pulled off. But today we're going to be talking about the top 5 single player games. I would just like to add 2 disclaimers though. One, this is not RPGs. So RPGs are games like The Witcher, Horizon Zero Dawn, Skyrim, that open world game where missions are sort of fragmented all over the place. It's not one of them. It's a linear story game where you have to follow a specific path and have to go a certain direction, sort of like a giant path to eventually finish the game. And secondly, this is only really modern games. I make these lists for people that are looking to buy new games, and that's why I do more modern games. If not, this list of single player games would consist like the original Tomb Raider, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, all them kind of classic games, but instead I've sort of vouched for something that's sort of been made since about 2010, maybe even later than that, sort of like 2013 I think is the oldest one on this list. So without any further ado, this is my top 5 single player games, and let's just get straight in to number 5. So, kicking things off in our 5th spot is Bethesda's out-of-nowhere horror classic with The Evil Within. Now, when I say out of nowhere, I of course do mean in an extremely good way. The Evil Within came literally flying onto the AAA scene, shooting down everything in its path to take over the horror genre. And taking over the horror genre is exactly what it did. It adapted a Silent Hill, Resident Evil-esque style that genuinely made it truly terrifying. Its atmospheric and bleak setting added to the horror simply because of the way everything looked made me feel personally very uncomfortable. It had a weird look to it. But not only did it adapt the look, it also adapted the play style. That classic over-the-shoulder view combined with very limited ammunition, and you basically do have a spiritual successor to the Resident Evil franchise. Sorry Resident Evil 7, but at the end of the day, you did kinda suck. Now moving on to the plot, which I personally believe to be its glaring flaw. I never felt the plot was good enough to match the incredible gameplay and style of the game. I felt that the mass murder at the mental hospital was just a cop-out in order to use truly bizarre looking enemies and make it all feel like it's relevant to the mental hospital. Although this did get me thinking deeper as a player, wondering the whole time if we were one of the patients and this was all a pigment of Sebastian, our protagonist's, imagination, similar to the plot of the movie Shutter Island. Now, The Evil Within is what the horror game genre truly needed to shake things up. It was fresh, it was simple, and although it was insanely freaky, it was flawlessly elegant. With its easy-to-control gunplay, enjoyable protagonist, and even more enjoyable antagonist, the game was inevitably successful and has even spawned a sequel, which is coming out very soon, and hopefully it will be able to live up to its classic predecessor. So coming in 4th and only just missing out on one of our top 3 spots is Alien Isolation. Now this Game of the Year nominated and even in some cases winning game is easily one of the better story-based games out there on the market. Again, we are with another horror game, and one in fact that's antagonist is probably the most iconic sci-fi creature in the last 50 years, that of course being the Xenomorph from the Alien series. Isolation creates its heart-stopping tension using a series of things. Firstly, let's just talk about the graphical capabilities of this game. It perfectly captures the classic Alien style with its long, dark and narrow corridors, but also with its fair share of random jump scares, like a pipe starting to leak with gas or even as simple as a door opening. Everything catches you off guard in this horror classic simply because we know that the goddamn alien is out there and is following us. Now talking about the alien, this is where things get really sweet and really nerdy, so bear with me. Because Alien Isolation is easily one of the smartest games you will ever play. Now allow me to explain that. If your mission, for example, is to open up a door to a new segment of the ship, the artificial intelligence, or AI for short, will actually look at your previous missions and change the enemies for the maximum scares, deliberately moving the alien into your direct path or making it so unbearably close that we have to reroute and take a new approach, making us change our playstyle, which then inevitably makes us feel uncomfortable playing the game. This was a genius idea from the developers of the game to always make you feel like it's following, or even just to make you feel like it's near. Now, would it even be an Alien game without the name Ripley coming up? Of course not. which is exactly why we are playing as the iconic Ellen Ripley's daughter, Amanda. Now, this was a bold move from the dev team to add yet another iconic name into the mix, but with the perfect balance of horror, story, and character development, Alien Isolation rightfully won all of its Game of the Year nominations. So, swinging in at the number 3 spot is the 2013 reboot of the Tomb Raider franchise, simply titled Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider was originally meant to be a carbon copy of the 1996 classic, only with modern graphics and an updated feel, but once developing teams caught wind of this, they thought this would be a complete reboot of the franchise to appeal to a modern audience, and that is exactly where Square Enix came into play, completely changing the plans and creating a whole new universe for a new generation of gamers to enjoy. The 2013 reboot perfectly captured the essence of the first game. While some would argue there was too much shooting and not enough puzzles, others argue that they simply weren't looking hard enough to find the extra puzzles in the form of hidden tombs. Personally, I think that Square Enix perfectly balanced the puzzles and the killing down to an absolute T. The story, however, was very different to its 1996 counterpart, for this is an origin story of how Lara Croft became the Tomb Raider. This story instead takes us, the player, on a journey through a mysterious island to uncover the secret tomb titled the Mother of Death. Throw an evil organisation called Trinity into the mix and you've got yourself a wonderfully evil antagonist. Mechanically, the game does share some similarities with the Uncharted franchise, offering a slower, more realistic climbing style to add a layer of pure and authenticity to our beloved Lara. The Uncharted feel doesn't stop there though, as most of the shooting, running, and even sometimes just dialogue feels like it should belong in an Uncharted game. Now that, of course, is not a bad thing though, as Naughty Dog's flagship title is arguably one of the greatest games ever made. Overall, Tomb Raider brings enough to the table to earn a spot on our list, creating authentic and real settings paired with familiar faces and mechanics, and you've got yourself an instant award winner. Now, there was a very good reason that I mentioned Uncharted, because Nathan Drake is coming in at our number 2 spot with Uncharted 4. Now, just to give everyone a heads up, they're all fantastic games, but 4 was my personal favourite, so I chose that one for the list. Uncharted 4, in my opinion, doesn't get credited enough for what it deserved. For a majority of the award season, it lost out to Overwatch, which I believe is hugely unfair. Now, just allow me to explain why. When it comes to characters, you don't get much better than Uncharted 4. Nathan Drake, his smuggler sidekick Victor Sullivan, his love from the original game Elena Fisher, his thought to be dead brother Samuel Drake, and of course the main antagonist Rafe. Every single one of these characters brings so much to the table, yet the game never feels crowded. It offers a unique and balanced story with the classic set pieces which never fail to blow you away. And the plot is that of a Netflix original series, filled with twists, turns, and even a sprinkle of death. The death of Brother Sam at the start of the game is enough to break every gamer's heart. Although we knew he was coming back because we'd seen him in Uncharted 4 trailers, it still punched us as fans right where it hurt to see our old buddy Nate upset like that. The later twist that Sam lied to Nate about Hector Alvarez's jailbreak story was a truly gut-wrenching moment. We all love Sam so much for his rugged good looks and an incredible charm, but we all had to sit back and kind of accept the fact that he'd been a bit of a dick. In the end though, Uncharted will go down as a classic and quite frankly iconic game series. Nolan North as Nathan Drake is truly a class act and will never be forgotten. The final entry to the franchise is arguably the best, and it is a perfectly well-rounded ending. Obviously the ending scene, seeing Nate finally getting the wealth he deserves, having a kid with Elena. It was such a brilliant end to the series, and it really gave it an authentic ending, one that I felt it deserved, and that's why I think it will go down as such an iconic game franchise. And of course, number 1. Everyone knew it was coming because it is the greatest story game ever made, and anyone that disagrees can fight me. The Last of Us is my rightful number 1 spot today because it is perfect. It is the perfect story game. You may think that is an over-exaggeration, but I can assure you it is not. The Last of Us predominantly follows our two main characters, Joel and Ellie, played by Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson. The chemistry between these two actors is clear for everyone to see on screen through their outstanding cutscenes and cinematic shots. The plot of The Last of Us adds a nice twist to the classic zombie horror genre, adding a setting and events were merely backdrops to our character's journey. It all starts when Joel is tasked with taking Ellie to a group of rebels called the Fireflies because she has the cure, or she is the cure. Little does Joel know at this point in the game that it would mean that Ellie has to die. Of course, over the game, the two grow a very strong father-daughter bond, which is rare to see in modern gaming, yet The Last of Us does it so flawlessly. The character arcs are also a work of pure genius. Joel losing his daughter and having to raise another girl while traveling across America was a truly beautiful thing to watch. Watching him slowly come to terms with the death of Sarah and treating Ellie as his own was a perfect redemption story for a man who was so ready to quit so early on in his life. Ellie's arc, on the other hand, is more coming to terms with the real world. We discover early on that she has never been outside the quarantine zone, and that makes for some truly incredible moments, the giraffe scene being the most memorable of them all. This build-up creates an emotional and strong bond for the characters, making the ending so hard to deal with. Having to watch Joel lie through his teeth at Ellie was an action so simple but had millions of gamers in tears. Overall, The Last of Us is a masterpiece and will never ever, in my opinion, be topped as Naughty Dog's best piece of work. So there you have it, guys. That is my top 5 single player games. What do you guys think of the list? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments what you guys think should have been in there if you do disagree. And of course, on Friday, I'm going to be doing another top 5, and that is going to be the RPG games of them open world story based games. But until then, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this top 5. Remember to leave a like if you did, and of course subscribe if you would like to see more fresh content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with a brand new video.